My name is Charles Whitmore. 73 years old. Retired, they say. Forgotten, I'd argue. Once, my name stood for something. Hell, in this town, it meant something. Now it floats in the air like smoke no one remembers lighting. I live in a small, weather-worn house at the edge of the city. Not falling apart, just tired. Like me. The paint peels like old skin, and the mailbox leans a little more each year. But I keep the yard trimmed. The porch clean. The tea warm. No one visits unless it's a delivery driver who barely looks me in the eye. I watch them through the blinds, young, fast, plugged into their phones like they're afraid of the silence. I remember when silence meant thinking. My children, Robert and Elaine, are very busy people. He's in finance, she's some kind of consultant. They send cards for birthdays and holidays, cards signed not with love, but with obligation. Their voices on the phone are rehearsed. Stale. The last time I saw them in person, they brought their own food and talked at me, not to me. And the grandkids, polite strangers. Their eyes drift when I speak. They nod like it's homework. At the grocery store, I wait by the counter while the young cashier scans the next customer, pretending not to see me. The doctor's office is worse, they speak about me like I'm not in the room. He probably doesn't understand, one nurse whispered once, like I was furniture. Every morning is the same, Earl Grey tea, my green plaid blanket, the creak of this old recliner, and the quiet buzz of a muted television. I turn the sound off because I already know what they're saying. All noise, no meaning. Sometimes I write in my notebook. Just lines. Names. Thoughts. Dates. Patterns. I tell myself it's nothing, but my hand moves with memory. I don't feel sad. That's the thing. I feel erased. There's a difference, you know, between being alone and being invisible. Alone is a state of the body. Invisible, that's a judgment. That's a sentence. That's society telling you, you're done. But I am not. Something still flickers in me. Like the ember of a fire you thought you'd put out. I feel it when I look at the photos on the mantle, me shaking hands with governors, business partners, charity board members. I remember the weight of command, of being the voice in the room everyone turned to. They all think it's gone. That I'm gone. But they're wrong. They think age stole my strength. That time softened my spine. That I've slipped into some senile fog where nothing registers. But I hear everything. I see everything. The way Robert checks his watch when I speak. The condescension in my doctor's voice. The smirk on that kid's face when I dropped my wallet. I haven't said a word. Not yet. But I'm done forgiving. And I'm done forgetting. There was a time when my voice could tilt a room. I wasn't born into money. No silver spoon, no trust fund. Just grit, vision, and a refusal to stay small. In the early 80s, I built my first company out of a rented garage and 2 maxed-out credit cards. Logistics. Supply chains. I understood movement. I understood people. And most importantly, I understood pressure. Apply it in the right place, and even mountains shift. They used to call me the architect. Not for buildings, no. I built futures. I made things happen, quietly, surgically. Partners came and went, but I always remained. I read contracts like they were scripture. Negotiated with sharks and smiled doing it. I didn't break laws. I bent reality. When the recession hit in '91, I saved 50 families from losing their jobs. I ate last so they could eat first. I mortgaged my house to cover payroll. I remember signing that paper with a shaking hand, praying my kids wouldn't feel the storm I was stepping into. Robert never knew his college tuition came from a bridge loan that almost killed the company. Elaine never asked what it took to cover her MBA. They just assumed it was easy. They don't remember. But I do. I remember staying up 3 nights straight when the IRS audited us, navigating paperwork like a minefield. I remember burying my partner's betrayal behind a smile and a well-placed buyout. I remember the death threats from union reps and the Christmas bonuses I handed out 2 weeks later anyway. And I remember Sundays. Sitting in church with a spine made of iron, shaking hands with people who would one day ask for favors they'd never repay. I gave them all, time, wisdom, shelter. I was the man people called in crisis. I was the calm. The solution. The damn cornerstone. Now I sit in silence while my own son ignores my calls. The same son who once called me a hero at his wedding. The same daughter who clung to me the night her husband left her, now too busy to text. I am a ghost of their convenience. They believe power has an expiration date. They believe that because I walk slower, talk less, and live alone, that I've been decommissioned, archived like some artifact. They don't understand. Time doesn't dull a blade. It sharpens it. It teaches you where to cut, and how deep. In this quiet, this suffocating, sterile quiet, I have begun to remember who I was. Not out of nostalgia, but necessity. Because that man, the one who held cities together by sheer will, is still here. He's just beneath the skin. Let them keep forgetting. Let them keep laughing. Because I haven't forgotten anything. And I didn't build an empire just to die in a rocking chair. It's not the big betrayals that leave scars. It's the small ones, tiny cuts that bleed in silence. Last month I called Robert. Just to hear his voice. I rehearsed the words before dialing, like some nervous teenager asking for a date. It rang 4 times. Then voicemail. I tried again the next morning. This time, I heard him answer, and then the line went dead. He had declined the call. Deliberately. I sat in the kitchen for 2 hours after that. The tea went cold. The silence felt different, heavier, like failure. 2 weeks ago, I asked my grandson Noah to help fix a broken hinge on the front gate. Just a screwdriver and a minute of his time. He laughed. Not cruelly, casually. Grandpa, just hire someone. It's not 1950. Then he went back to his phone. I watched his thumbs fly across the screen as if my existence was an interruption. Not a moment later, I heard him snort and whisper to someone over FaceTime, "He still thinks I care." They laughed together. And I smiled. Last Tuesday, the doctor told me I wasn't absorbing things the way I used to. He didn't say it to me. He said it about me, while I sat in the room. He asked the nurse to take the old guy back out, as if I were a malfunctioning appliance. I looked him straight in the eyes when I left, and I saw nothing, not cruelty. Not care. Just vacancy. Like I wasn't real. Yesterday, I dropped a paper bag outside the grocery store. A can rolled to the curb. 3 people walked around it. 1 young woman actually stepped over it. Not 1 person bent down. I stood there, watching the tomato sauce leak slowly onto the pavement. My knees ached as I bent over to retrieve it. When I stood up, someone chuckled behind me. A whisper. Why do they even leave the house? They. I had become a they. A category. A burden. But here's what they don't see. I write everything down. Every name. Every face. Every moment. Not out of obsession. Out of preparation. My notebook isn't a diary. It's a ledger. I remember who didn't call. Who laughed. Who looked away. I log patterns. I connect dots. They think I'm slow because I don't react. They don't realize, I'm recording. And when I close that notebook at night, I don't feel anger. I feel clarity. Pain is a teacher. A brutal, brilliant teacher. And I have been its star student. They think nothing of me. And that's their greatest mistake. Because I used to move empires without lifting a hand. Now I only need to lift a pen. And the dam? It's cracking. It happened on a Thursday. The sky was slate gray, the kind of color that looks like it's holding back a scream. I walked to the market, just a short stroll. I still take the walk because it reminds me I'm alive. I had 2 bags in my hands, milk, bread, a tin of soup. I don't need much. I stopped to tie my shoelace. My hands shook more than usual. And then it happened. My foot caught on a curb. The world tilted. I fell. The bags exploded on the sidewalk. Milk splattered. The can of soup rolled into the street. My knee cracked against the concrete. My wrist burned. And above me, laughter. Not cruel. Not loud. Worse. Dismissive. A group of teenagers watched from across the street. One of them shook his head and muttered just loud enough. Man, he should be in a home. Another voice joined in. Leave it. He's probably got dementia. No one helped. No one moved. I lay there for 7 seconds. I counted. 7 seconds that rewrote me. I pushed myself up slowly. Not because of the pain, but because of the decision forming in my blood. I looked at the kids. I memorized their faces. Their shoes. Their tattoos. And I smiled. Not out of kindness. Out of recognition. That moment, something old, something buried, rose to the surface. Not rage. Not despair. Precision. I walked home. Each step heavier than the last, not with fatigue, but with intent. The key turned in the lock. I stepped inside. Shut the door. Locked it. And then I moved to the hallway closet. The one I hadn't opened in years. Behind the coats was a steel safe. 3 turns. 1 breath. The click. Inside, a phone. Old, but powerful. A burner, the kind that doesn't leave fingerprints, only footprints. Next to it, my black notebook. The real one. Not the one on the coffee table, the one with everything. Codes. Names. Connections. And in the bottom of the safe, a folder. Inside, favors. People who owed me. People I'd saved. Buried secrets. Forgotten debts. I dusted it all off, sat at the desk, and opened the old laptop. No internet. No risk. Just memory. For hours, I mapped. I scribbled. I planned. I remembered what they'd all forgotten. I wasn't a man who built businesses. I was a man who orchestrated power. Behind closed doors. In whispers. Through leverage. And now I had nothing left to lose. Which means I had everything to use. The rules didn't matter anymore. Because monsters don't follow rules. They write them. And I had just picked up the pen again. They call it karma when the universe sets things right. I call it architecture. This is not revenge. Revenge is messy, emotional, impulsive. What I am doing is design. Every action calibrated. Every domino placed. The fall will feel like coincidence to them. A bad week. A scandal. A string of bad luck. But I will know. And that's enough. It started with Robert. My son, the man who once called me his foundation. Now a rising star at a private equity firm. Rides his ambition like a racehorse, blind to how brittle the ground is beneath him. I made one call, to a former investigator I once protected from a federal witch hunt. He owed me. Still does. Within 48 hours, I had what I needed: travel logs, discrepancies in reported hours, conflicts of interest. A history of discretionary bonuses to consultants who were, let's say, more personal than professional. I drafted an anonymous envelope. No return address. Sent it directly to Robert's compliance officer. 3 weeks later, he was asked to resign. His wife never looked at him the same again. Elaine came next. Perfect daughter. Mind like a blade, heart like frost. Lives in California, speaks on panels about ethics in AI. I once bailed her out of a software breach settlement by silencing a whistleblower with a cushy position. I never asked for thanks. Just loyalty. She forgot. But I hadn't. So I sent a file, old, signed, buried in the wrong folder all these years, to her most ambitious rival. A non-disclosure agreement she had forgotten to terminate. The rival leaked it during her keynote. Elaine wasn't just discredited. She was erased. Noah, my grandson. College athlete. Instagram sponsor. Pompous. He once uploaded a TikTok mocking my voice, deep-faked and edited for likes. Thought I wouldn't see it. Thought I didn't know what TikTok was. He lost his scholarship last week. Not because of me directly. I just sent an anonymous tip to the university compliance office, pointing them to some suspicious betting activity tied to his student ID. It's amazing what can happen when you plant questions in the right inbox. He swears it's a mistake. That someone set him up. He's right. They've begun to notice. The calls come more often now. Robert's voice is slower. Hesitant. Elaine leaves voicemails, always in the evening, like she's trying to hide them. Noah hasn't called. But his mother has. I listen. I never answer. Because silence. Silence is power. They don't know it's me. They never will. But they are beginning to feel me. Like a storm in the bones. Like dread that hums just beneath the skin. And the best part? I haven't touched them. Not really. All I did was remove their insulation. Let them face themselves. They were the ones who fell. All I did was hold up the mirror. They came to the house today. Not all at once. First Robert, stiff in a suit he no longer needed to wear. Then Elaine, no makeup, for once. Tired in the eyes. Last came Noah, eyes red, hands in his pockets like a boy caught stealing. They didn't knock. They just stood at the bottom of the porch stairs, like children at confession. Waiting for something. Permission, maybe. I watched them from the window, my tea untouched, the television off. No sound but the pulse in my ears. I didn't move. Let them stew. Let them remember what silence feels like. Eventually, I opened the door. I didn't speak. Neither did they. Elaine stepped forward first, the brave one. She opened her mouth, but nothing came. Robert looked down at the floorboards. Noah, he looked at me. Really looked. Maybe for the first time in his life. He said, "Grandpa, was it you?" I said nothing. He nodded slowly. Then sat on the porch step, as if laying down a weapon he didn't realize he was carrying. They began to talk, to each other. And for the first time in decades, there was no performance. No posture. Just pain, confusion, and guilt. I listened. Let them bleed a little. They needed to know what it felt like, to be ignored. Forgotten. Undervalued. Invisible. Only then did I speak. You all left me for dead. Not just in body, but in memory. The words hung there, brittle as glass. Elaine whispered, "Why didn't you just say something?" I smiled, not kindly, but not cruelly either. Because you stopped hearing me long before I stopped talking. No one responded. What could they say? They came looking for forgiveness. They found something else. Not rage. Not punishment. Truth. They had made the choice to erase me. I had simply given them the privilege of seeing what that felt like, from the other side. I didn't burn their lives. I didn't destroy their futures. I just reminded them how fragile the illusion of control is. They left without hugs. Without promises. But they left changed. And that was enough. Tonight, I sit under the old lamp. The house is quiet, but not empty. I open my notebook, not the one with records, but the one I started the day I fell. My hand moves slowly as I write the final entry. Old age is not weakness. It's clarity with a long memory. I do not seek revenge. I offer a mirror. And may they never forget what they saw in it. I close the book. Outside, a cold wind moves through the trees. Inside, I feel something warm. Not pride. Not victory. Completion. Subscribe and like this video, more interesting revenge stories of elderly people coming soon.